Tech News Weekly is sponsored by Netflix. Watch thousands of TV episodes and movies on your PC, Mac, iPad, iPhone, or TV instantly. All streaming directly to you, saving you time, money, and hassle. For your free 30-day trial, go to netflix.com/GFQ.
Starting Tech News Weekly in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everybody, welcome to Tech News Weekly. This is a show where myself and whoever's on the panel with me, it's been Suncast for the last couple of weeks, but we're going to be bringing a couple more people. This is a show where we review everything that's happening in technology for the week, all the cool and interesting things that are happening in tech. I'm joined by Suncast. Hey John, how you doing?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. We were having some Skype issues as usual, but it seems to have settled down now and everything's back to normal.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully this will last through the entire show. So,
well, we're crossing our fingers.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like everybody's having Skype issues now. I don't know if that's something with Microsoft or
I don't know. I mean, it seems like it's been.
I mean, that just what this does. This just yet again proves that we need finer controls over what's going on with Skype when we have calls.
Listen, that's why you work for me. That's why you're here. You got to build something.
Yeah,
you got to do it. I want to remind everybody before we get into the news, if you miss any portion of any show on the GFK Network, you can go to our website, gfknetwork.com, and catch our archive there. We also put all our shows on iTunes, on Windows Phone, and anywhere else podcasts are available. We are even on the BlackBerry. And I bring up BlackBerry, and I will be doing a review at the end of the show of this beautiful, beautiful phone. People are going to be a little surprised with what I have to say about it, and that's a little teaser. That's what we call a teaser in the business.
Surprises!
I want to go into a story that I personally think is significant and is pretty large, and that's the announcement that Google Fiber will be expanding into Austin, Texas. Plans of this rollout are being set for mid-2014, and this is a big story because I did not anticipate them to go into Austin this quickly. I thought they just got Kansas City rolled out, that we're going to concentrate a little bit on that. But they seem to be rolling this thing out, and there are more cities in talks to get Google Fiber. What Google Fiber is, it's a 1 gigabit broadband connection that offers TV, phone, and internet. This is fascinating to me that they are actually expanding this. It's a typical Google thing. It's a little pet project of theirs. They are just doing it. They're not doing it to make money off of currently, but they're doing it to kind of say, hey, listen, guys, listen, ISPs, you guys are really doing a bad job, and it's time to kind of put into high gear. We could come into your city and take it over with 1 gigabit internet at a reasonable cost.
This is
what are you
really
guys doing?
Because if you think about it, this is great because now they can do their Chromebook Pixel thing.
Yeah, that's what Paul was saying. That's exactly what Paul said.
It kind of makes sense is that Google has all these internet services, and the faster they can deliver that data to you, the more services they can provide.
What's interesting about the Google Fiber stuff is that there was a report that came out, I believe it was on TechCrunch, and they said they spent about $84 million to build Kansas City out, and it's 149,000 homes. They're estimating that if they were to do a nationwide rollout of Google Fiber, it would cost them about $11 billion. And $11 billion is a significant number to you or myself or anybody listening to us. But for a company like Google, $11 billion is not that crazy of a number. I'm very surprised it's that low.
Yeah, that's not a bad number at all. My only concern with that is, as far as profit goes, and I know you're a business type person, they're going to want, or an actual business other than Google might actually want to try and profit off of that somehow. I mean, like, what would the return be if you invested $11 billion in this Google Fiber rollout? How are you going to make that money back and then some?
Oh, I mean, it's the infrastructure, right? They're investing in the infrastructure right now. So I could see Google, let's say the next 10 years, they do exactly what Verizon had done with the copper lines, or AT&T was doing with the copper lines. They leased it out to other companies.
this is my whole problem, and why I'm kind of like apprehensive to call this an actual big story is that it's so small of a market. It's a couple markets right now, and then they're expanding to Austin, which is going to be like a third market, but that's pretty much it. So, and we saw the same thing with Verizon Fios, where in a way it's ridiculous because they started rolling it out and then they stopped rolling it out, and there's so few places you can actually give Verizon Fios compared to the entire country if you think about that.
Well, to kind of play the other side, Verizon stopped rolling out because they signed a deal with all the telcos and ISPs, well, more of the cable companies, and said, we're not going to compete in your market, but in return you're going to give us spectrum, and we're going to shake hands on this.
It was a bad deal for consumers, I'll tell you that.
Awful deal for consumers, because Verizon Fios, for many people were excited. They looked at it as, oh my God, now I could have high-speed internet.
Finally, the future of internet is coming, where we can actually see 100 megabit speeds.
And the thing that Verizon did, which was interesting, and the reason why they were able to do it is because it was a brand new infrastructure. The plans didn't vary depending on your area. There's one Verizon plan, it's whatever tier plan that they have, and everybody has those options. Where with Time Warner, you may be in a market that has 30 by 30. And if you go maybe 20 miles or 40 miles from where your location is, the same Time Warner plan will be, 20 by 5. And that's a problem.
I'm sure some people will want to point out the fact that Comcast now has a 300 megabit per second tier. But if you think about it, at the prices that Verizon was offering for the speed, there's just no competition for that. Because for what you would get on like a Comcast or AT&T at those speeds, you're going to have to pay at least twice as much what you would pay for Verizon Fios. Because you're only paying what, like $70 for 100 by 50, 100 by 75 even.
I have 150 by 75, and I'm paying $70 for that because it's bundled. But my other Verizon line that I use for Skype is 50 by 50, and I'm paying $80 a month for that. Because it's not bundled. But 50 by 50 at $80 is still a okay price. I mean, it's not crazy.
Right. I mean, and that's symmetrical too. And that's the big thing is that a lot of people don't realize is that normally they advertise only the download speed. Nobody ever cares about the upload speed. But people like us, we got to have that upload speed. And so to have that much upload bandwidth, that is just incredible.
And listen, I'm going to say something, and please, someone in the chat room, if I'm wrong, debunk me on my theory. But I personally feel that when the line is symmetrical with the speed, you have a better consistent internet connection than a 150 by 75.
Oh, total. Because anybody that's actually used their bandwidth to the full potential will realize that when you're maxing it out, either from the download or the upload, the other is going to suffer. So if you're maxing out your upload at, let's say I have 4 megabits per second up. If I'm uploading 4 megabits per second up, well, my download is going to suffer. Period. End of story, because that pipe is just so congested from trying to send that data.
Swamp Rat in our chat room says he's paying $54.99 a month for 6 megabits by 512 kilobits.
There's no way that it costs that much money for them to maintain and run a DSL line.
Yeah. It's fascinating, but I'm excited to hear about this rollout. The only problem that I could see happening is not, Kansas City is welcoming this because it's great publicity for the city, and it's great publicity for, just the town in itself, but the city itself. But when you enter a large market like a New York or a Chicago or a Philadelphia, there's a lot of red tape you're going to have to go through. It took Verizon years to come into New York City. They had the lines ready at the border of Long Island and New York City, and they couldn't come in because it was whatever, they had to agree to do this and they had to agree to do that. So I don't know how successful they will be when they enter a market like New York where, there's a lot of handshaking and a lot of backroom deals happening. I'm curious to see how it does.
I cannot tell you how badly I want internet like what you've got. To have 150 by 75, that would make my life so much easier.
Yeah. 150 by 75. It's like magic. It's like this magical world.
I can't even come close to that. That's what's so sad. Like, I have 25 by 4.
In the old days,
that's not even half of what you've got.
In the old days, they used to say America's paved with golden streets. Literally, the sidewalks were paved in gold. That's what this is like to you.
Yeah.
I am your America in the 1940s, and you are living in some small town in Europe. And you're looking at me and you're saying, "Oh my God, the streets are paved in gold in the Fios world." Hey, John, you want to go into the next story?
Which one do you want to go
into? The Apple
into?
one. Go into the Apple one because this is interesting.
Well, this is really interesting because if everybody remembers, back in December, there was an app called App Shopper, which I've used before. And what it does was it was basically like a wish list type of thing, and it would allow you to wish list application and keep check on the price, which is really cool. So it would notify you when there was a discount on a price for an application. But Apple removed that. Well, now there's another application called App Gratis, which is kind of similar. It's basically an app recommendations app, which is kind of similar to the iTunes Apple Store. And Apple has now pulled this because they say that it violates a couple of their things in their Apple iTunes Store. Specifically, it says that it violates the fact that apps cannot display other than your own purchase or promotion in a display apps other than your own for purchase or promotion in a manner similar to or confusing with the App Store will be rejected. But that's not even the interesting part. The interesting part is the fact that apps cannot use push notifications to send advertising promotions or direct marketing of any kind. So this is really interesting, the fact that they got them on 2 violations of their code. And everybody's kind of wondering now, well, what happens with these applications that people really like to use to find applications that they could find them in a manner that was completely different than the iTunes Store and in some ways better than the iTunes Store.
The iTunes Store is interesting because there are applications, and I know people that have developed apps, and I hear about submissions not being accepted or being kicked out of the App Store on a regular basis now. They're really clamping down on what your application is able to do. And you know what? It kind of makes sense that their whole thing is, well, your application has to be offering something unique where other applications can't.
Other than the fact that it was, according to them, it was too similar to their App Store.
To their personal App Store.
Yeah, but see, here's my whole problem with this is that it still offered something better than their own App Store, and Apple has yet to improve upon their own App Store in those particular areas.
This is the thing that I was afraid that would happen with a lot of these podcasting apps, because when Apple released their podcasting app, it kind of automatically became against their terms of service. You were violating the terms of service because you cannot have an application that is similar to what their own application does. So what happens to every single podcasting app on that marketplace? It is possibly in direct violation of their terms of service.
Well, that's just the same as their Maps program. And they have Apple Maps now, but then they still have Google Maps, Waze, and a whole bunch of other mapping applications that they simply cannot refuse. If they were to refuse Google Maps, they would have a huge backlash.
And by the way, a lot of these podcasting apps are tapping into the iTunes API, and that's how they're getting their list. You know, you always wonder, like, how is it that these podcasting apps have all these podcasts on there? They're literally tapping into the App Store, the podcasting store that Apple provides.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to me.
Do you think it's going to get worse over time now? Do you think that this is just the beginning? We've seen App Shopper and now App Gratis, which was a very popular application for people. A lot of people, I've seen this recommended on tons of websites, and now that's been pulled. Are we going to see more apps being pulled or rejected?
Yeah, I think they're going to start clamping down on this because for them, for a while, you remember, it's the 10 billionth app on the market, whatever it was. Now they got to kind of, the App Store is mature to the point that they could afford to cut all these applications from the App Store. You know, we've seen a lot of apps disappear over the last couple of years because of inactivity. If your app is not written already, you're going to get thrown out too. So they're really
this is really interesting because
they're starting to clean house.
I know I'm using that as a crutch now, but
don't worry, that's what I did.
The way Apple has been treating them has been really crappy because they really have not had hardly any communication with Apple. And in fact, Apple had just approved their iPad application for App Gratis. And then a week later, they pulled their iPhone application, which is completely bizarre. And apparently they can't get any sort of communication from Apple regarding this issue.
Yeah.
I think that's the real story there. Is I can understand the fact that they have these rules laid out, and I can understand that it is similar to what they already offer. But at the same time, one, Apple needs to be in contact with these companies when something like this happens. And second, if they're going to pull these applications, well, then they need to incorporate the technology that they're using in those applications in their own app store so that it offers similar functionality.
I guess they don't like it that they're hand-picking apps, and they're kind of pushing it because, I don't know. I'm just trying to come up with a defense for what they would do.
I can understand that, but it's just hard because Apple really doesn't really do a good job of communicating what is and isn't. It's almost like a blurry gray line as far as what's accepted, what's not. In a way, you can almost submit an app, have it accepted, and then later down the road, Apple will decide, oh, well, we don't like this app anymore, so we're going to pull it.
You want to go into the Fox story? Because I have a lot to say about this.
Yeah, we can go into that story. So earlier, or actually a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, a service that's popular in New York called Aereo, which is a
which I have, by the way.
I have streaming digital service that's on the internet. Basically,
I have that service.
Antennas. Yeah, they basically have antennas, and they stream that signal to you over the internet. And so they were in court fighting this with some broadcasters or whatever, and apparently they won part of the legal battle, saying that they don't necessarily have to shut down now, but they're still fighting it out in the court. But this week, Fox has come out and said that, well, if you're going to greenlight Ariel, if you're okay with them doing this, well, then we don't want to be part of the TV system. We're going to make Fox a cable channel. Make it a subscription channel that people have to pay for.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely ridiculous, in my opinion. What do you think?
I have Aereo, and Aereo's really good for what it is, but it's extremely limited because you can... Let me actually, before I say it, let me just go to the website because I haven't looked at their updates for a while, but initially you could only watch it on your iPad. I wasn't able to watch it on my laptop, so I don't know if it's still like that, but I know that they were no, I'm absolutely wrong. They've added desktop support, so that's great. So you could use your Roku, you could use your Apple TV, you could use your iPad, iPhone, or any browser that you choose on Mac or PC, and you can watch over-the-air high-def content with Aereo. It's a solid service. I really did not have any issues with it. It was a little buggy in the beta, but it's actually really solid now, really, really well done. And the packages are very affordable. For 12 months, it's $12 a month, and you get over-the-air programming. It's high-def content. You can, by the way, Suncast is me in the room.
That's you?
Yeah, that's me.
You're about to get kicked.
Yeah, I know. You could. It's pretty affordable for someone that wants to do it, and the cool thing is you get DVR
I should kick
support.
you anyway.
Don't you dare. You get 40 hours of DVR storage, so that's actually the main reason why you're paying. I don't know why Fox is freaking out because it's the exact same thing as buying an antenna and watching it on your TV. There's no difference.
Only they're streaming it over the internet, and apparently they don't like that.
Apparently, their reasoning behind it is that they make a lot of money from rebroadcasts of their shows and licensing to rebroadcast. So they're thinking they're going to lose out on this, lose out on money because it's broadcasting over the air on the internet. It's a very backwards way of thinking. I really don't understand it.
Companies have always been backwards thinking like that. They just don't understand that they need to get with the times and get with the future, and that future is content streamed on the internet.
And it really makes no sense because how this works, the service works, there was a whole ruling here in New York, is that this company, Ariel, which is located in Queens, in Long Island City, Queens, they have this giant facility. Each account has an antenna. You're purchasing, so pretty much what you're doing, you're leasing an antenna to watch the content over the air. So really, there's nothing illegal. There's nothing weird about what they're doing. You're literally paying to use this antenna that they have per computer. I think maybe they have like a mega antenna that splits it. At the time, they were doing one antenna per account. I actually like this a lot because think about it. If you have a Roku, you have an Apple TV, now you have over-the-air programming on your television. You have Netflix on your television. You have Roku on your television. So really, you have access to all these services from one device. You don't have to constantly go back and forth. I really like that.
I don't understand what their intent is, what they hope to gain from these sort of threats. And it's not just Fox. The president of Univision and also CBS this week have also come out saying that if this legal battle for streaming over the internet goes forward and continues and gets greenlighted, that they also want to make their channels a subscription-based model.
But I don't understand because the ads are available. Like people are saying, their reasoning is ads. You still get the same commercials if you're in the local New York market. So if I'm watching Fox 5 here in New York City, I'm going to see exactly what I'm seeing on my television. Wouldn't they want to make it more accessible for you to watch live programming, considering we're on the go more and more now?
This is the whole problem. And this actually ties in with what we were talking about with Google Fiber and having better internet, is the fact that we have these companies that are just so old school that they don't want to change anything. They want to hold on to their monopolies. They don't want any sort of competitions. And it's just, we can move forward so much quicker and so much cooler than if these companies didn't stand in the way. That's what they're doing, is they're standing in the way of advancing technology and actually getting content to people. If you think about it, look at how long it took CBS, Fox, and these over-the-air channels to put their episodes on their own website. Because you remember, you could BitTorrent this stuff for like 5 years before CBS or Fox ever had episodes on demand on their own website.
So I'm actually testing out the service right now. It's pretty good. I mean, I'm watching CBS 2 right now, local CBS News on the service. It looks great. I mean, it looks really, really good. Really high-res quality on the full screen. Very impressive. Yeah. I just don't understand why they wouldn't want me to do this.
Where we need to go too is the fact that I think the reason why we don't see more TV on our mobile devices now is because of these companies, these networks and cable channels that don't want that to happen.
Yeah,
they want you to sit down in front of a TV or whatever. They don't want you to get access if it's over the internet. It's just so backwards.
It is. It's really backwards.
It's unfathomable because mobile TV viewing could skyrocket if these networks just did not stand in the way and let things happen. Technology is there to do this. We could watch TV on our phones very easily. The fact is that between all these licensing deals and these companies standing in the way, it's just not happening.
But, we're talking about the licensing deals and we're talking about that, but live television consumption over the last, 5 years has drastically dropped for me personally. I don't know about you. I don't know about anybody else in our chat, but I personally rarely watch anything live unless it's a sporting event, because then it's stupid to watch it after the fact. But I watch nearly everything DVR'd or on demand or on my Roku or on one of these devices. That is when these companies are losing money, because every time I'm watching a TV show and it goes to a commercial, guess what I'm doing? I'm skipping forward. Every time a show is on demand, they are not making the same amount of money as they would for the live broadcast, because the commercials are cut out and they're putting different ads on there, and I'm sure they're not making as much money from it. Why would they be against the concept that I'm able to watch the live programming and see the commercials on my laptop? It's this weird thing. It's actually, I would welcome this, and you know what? I would be really happy, because if I was the president of this company, or if I was, a representative of CBS, I would say, you know what? This is great for us because we are able to deliver our ads to a whole different market and a whole different generation of computer users and television viewers.
Can I tell you how much I would love to be able to watch TV on my computer? My TV in my office is opposite of where I sit. So my back is facing the TV. I cannot sit at my computer, look at my monitor, and easily look at my TV at the same time. But if I could watch my TV over the internet, that would just be amazing. I could actually watch TV and do something on the internet on my computer at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, and it baffles me.
This whole threat just does not make any sense, because who are they threatening? What do they hope to gain from this? I don't see what their hope is, because the people that this would affect, they don't care. Every comment that I've seen about this was like, go ahead, I dare you to do it. See how it affects me because I'm not watching you now anyway.
Yeah,
These people that would be affected like this have already cut the cable.
Well, this is the fear of the networks, because before these networks were getting 20 and 40 shares on a TV show, and due to cable, they didn't welcome cable when it happened. They didn't like cable, and cable wasn't taken seriously for many, many years because of the networks. Networks didn't like it. And then they realized, oh my God, I could target a national ad with this. This is great. That's when they came into play. It's amazing to me. It doesn't make sense. I don't get it. And it's a small market program, and they're freaking out over it. I think this is wonderful. I really do. Can't you buy?
Finally,
John, aren't there antennas that you could attach, like USB antennas that you could attach to the TV and watch your TV programming via device?
I'm not sure. I've never looked.
I could swear to you there are USB TV tuners out there, and you could buy it and you could watch your show anywhere. So I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, there's Slingbox.
No. Literally like a USB stick that you plug in and you get over-the-air programming.
I'm not sure about that. I know there's those stupid USB sticks that people buy that's filled with just crappy streams.
No. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. No, they do have a they do have USB TV tuners. It literally has like an antenna.
Well, yeah.
So I don't know. Don't get it. Don't want to get it. It makes me very uncomfortable to think about this.
Yeah, if you think about it, I know Chris Tobin from Tword a few months ago was talking about some sort of adapter that you can actually plug in your iPhone and watch TV through that.
Yeah, he was actually. Yeah. John, we need to take a little break and talk about our new sponsor to Tech News Weekly, and that's Netflix. I think it's a great segue from the over-the-air discussion going into Netflix. Netflix streams thousands of TV shows, movies directly to you instantly, which means you can save money, you can save time, and there's no hassle with it. There are several easy ways you could access your Netflix stream, watch movies and television shows. You could watch it either on a Mac, PC, iPad, iPhone, Android phone. It doesn't matter. Or you could choose a number of your gaming consoles like the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, Nintendo Wii, Wii U, or an Apple TV or a Roku. I actually access my Netflix account through my Google TV, which makes it very easy for me. You can begin watching a movie or a TV show on one device, then finish it on another. So I have a Roku in my living room, and I got my Google TV upstairs. So when I'm watching something and I need to come downstairs, pause it, and I can just pick up where I left off, which is amazing. And this is a great offer they're giving us. Normally, you see a lot of these offers, which are 7-day trials. You see 14-day trials. Netflix is giving us a 30-day free trial. If you go to netflix.com/GFQ, you're going to get a month for free, and it couldn't come at a better time. You have Arrested Development starting. You have House of Cards that has been on there, an original Netflix show. I am a huge fan of Netflix. I actually just changed my plan. I was still getting the DVDs, but I wasn't taking them. And I just changed my plan to only be the streaming stuff because the streaming quality has gotten so stable, and it's unbelievable. They're doing such an amazing job. Again, you get your free trial if you go to netflix.com/GFQ. We want to thank Netflix for their support, and we want to thank you for signing up for Netflix because I know each and every one of you are going to go and do that right now. Netflix.com/GFQ. Get 30 days for free. And thank you for their support for Tech News Weekly. John, I got to get you a Netflix account. You need Netflix.
Okay.
I don't know why you don't have Netflix. You're going to go and get Netflix today.
Okay.
I dropped my pen. I'm like Bob Dole with this pen. Always in my hand like this. PC stats for the first quarter 2013 are the worst since 1994. This is not a good sign at all. According to IDC PC trackers, worldwide PC shipments totaled 76.3 million units in the first quarter of 2013, down 13.9%, nearly 14% from the same quarter in 2012. And it is worse than the forecasted decline of 7.7% that was predicted. The extent of the year-on-year marking is the worst in the quarter. They're saying the worst PC sales since 1994. Who do you blame for this? Many people blame Windows 8. Do you think that plays a significant factor in the lack of PC sales? I personally don't think that's a factor. I think we are consuming all the data that we need, and we're doing everything on all these different devices. It's no longer a PC world anymore.
But you don't see Windows 8 as any sort of factor in this?
I think it plays a very small factor, but I don't think it plays a factor with the everyday computer user. I really don't even think they grasp the concept of Windows 8. I don't think they even know it exists. They're getting it, and if you're going and buying a computer, you have no choice but to buy a Windows 8 computer. It's not like you could go and buy a Linux computer. You could either buy a Mac, and I think the reports were that Apple went up a little bit with the MacBook sales, which is actually an interesting sign of things, because I kind of predicted that if you're in that higher end PC market, I think you're going to see a swing and more people are going to purchase a Mac over a PC if they're uncomfortable with the Windows 8 concept. But
absolutely,
overall, I do not think it's Windows 8 that's affecting it. I do not think it's the Mac that's affecting it. I think it's a direct response to the tablet. Everybody has a tablet. I'll give you a perfect example. I've had my MacBook for 2 years now. I don't think I'm going to purchase another computer this year. I'm not using my laptop as much as I would have maybe 3 years ago. I'm not taking it wherever I need to go. I have a tablet for that. I have my phone for that.
3 years ago, tablets weren't as powerful, as usable as they were today.
I'll tell you something.
I mean, technically, the iPad is only 3 years old, so
3 years old, and I have an iPad 2, and I'm most probably going to purchase the next iPad that comes out, because my iPad 2 is getting a little long in the tooth right now. Some apps are sluggish. It's not the same experience that it was.
I think it's definitely an example, or one of the factors why PC sales have slipped. I don't think you can say that Windows 8 isn't a factor. I think that's definitely a factor, because, quite frankly, I personally am turned off by computers that have Windows 8, because I don't think that PCs, what they're making now, and even the operating system Windows 8, I don't think it's necessarily Windows 8. I think it's a combination of Windows 8 plus the hardware. I don't think it's a good marriage yet. I think there's issues with Windows 8, and I think there's issues with the hardware that runs Windows 8.
Yeah, I agree with you with that, because I don't think the hardware is caught up. It's strange to say it, but when Vista came out, the biggest problem was Vista was great. It was just your hardware. You couldn't run Windows 8 because your hardware was slow. If you had a brand new top-of-the-line computer, your experience was going to be far better with Windows Vista than it was with than it would have been with a slower computer. I think with Windows 8, the issue is the OEMs have not caught up to what Microsoft requires as a standard. The reason why the Mac experience and the consumer satisfaction is higher is because they control the hardware.
But I don't think that's also necessarily the entire case there for that, because if you look at it, really, how many people are buying up these Windows RT and Surface tablets? I don't think there's nearly many of those compared to somebody that's buying an iPad. I think there's way more iPad sales than there are for Windows Surface sales.
Oh no, absolutely, and it's a new market, so I'm not going to hold that against Microsoft. But my problem with Windows 8 is my experience is different on Windows 8 when I go from computer to computer to computer. I could have three laptops in front of me, and I will have a totally different experience on each of those. That existed for Windows prior to Windows 8, but it wasn't as drastic of a difference. The trackpad on this thing, and I've said it for the last 2 years, the trackpad is make or break for your Windows experience. If your
not only that, here's my entire problem with Windows 8 is that they have it optimized for touch. If you don't have a touch computer, you don't have a Windows Surface, quite frankly, it is not a great experience. That's my whole problem with it, is that, in my opinion, it's a lot more difficult to use Windows 8 because it's touch optimized on a desk for touch and not for a desktop. That's my whole problem with it, is that it's just not really usable on a desktop for me. It's so much more difficult to use than Windows 7 on a desktop. For my everyday use, I can get around so much quicker, so much more easier on Windows 7 than I can with Windows 8, simply because Windows 7 is not touch optimized.
Yeah.
That's my whole problem with Windows 8.
But do you attribute Windows 8, how much of the problem is Windows 8 and how much of the problem is the fact that we're able to get the same exact content on all our devices nowadays, where when Windows 7 came out in 2009, the market was not that. Or 2009, yeah, that's when it came out.
Yeah, I think it's a small part. I don't know, because My dad got an iPad about a month ago, and he hardly ever uses his laptop anymore. He uses that iPad all day long. He'll sit there, play his games, check his internet, his email, and everything. He barely uses his laptop anymore.
Yeah, I mean, and that speaks volumes. My wife Jessica, she is rarely using her laptop. She only uses it when she's doing word processing. That is the only thing that she does on that thing, and she uses it as a word processor. She's not really using it to go on Netflix. She's not using it to chat with her friends. She's not using it to go on Facebook.
Otherwise, an iPad is perfectly fine.
Yep,
you
iPad and iPhone, that's it.
On it.
Yeah, and that's what most people need. And quite frankly, I think it's if you are not computer savvy, if you have an older parent that has never used a computer, I do not advise buying a computer. Buy them an iPad. Buy them, and I'm not saying in generally a tablet. Buy them an iPad and see the experience that they're going to have on that, because it's so dumbed down you cannot screw it up, and that's what people want. And that's the truth. I mean, not us, because we're the exception to the rule. We're that 1% that actually wants to fiddle around with the computer, and that's what Microsoft saw, and that's what Microsoft wants to do with Windows 8. The issue is, you're kind of putting that on a computer, and that experience is not going to be where it is. And it's also a 1.0 device, 1.0 software, and it's going to get better eventually.
It's also expensive.
It also is expensive. But again,
not to say that the iPad isn't expensive, but I think in a way the perception is that the Windows Surface tablets are more expensive.
Yeah. So I don't know the IDC stats. It's kind of. Who do you attribute this downward slope of PC sales? The economy plays a factor. Cell phones play a factor. Tablets play a factor. We don't need a laptop. This is
almost in
anymore.
A way the same as going from vinyl to CD, etc. You know what I'm saying? Where we have this technology. Vinyls were great for their time, but along came this compact digital technology that made things sound so much better in such a smaller form that you could fit so much more on it, and it just was superior in every single way. And I'm not saying that iPads are necessarily superior, but for what people need to do with them, iPads and tablets fit their needs way more than something like a vinyl record or a PC. That's my analogy of it anyway.
MC Phillips in the chat room has an interesting thing, and it's kind of getting off of this conversation, but he said, I wonder how many people call their Nexus 7 an iPad. And I think about that all the time, where iPad has become the Kleenex of the tablet world. I'm curious how many people actually refer to their tablets as iPads when they're not. I'm curious about that.
People that don't know anybody definitely do.
I've heard people.
And in a way, it's almost easier to say iPad because everybody knows what an iPad is. What's the Nexus for?
I had a conversation.
Is it a tablet?
I had a conversation with a relative recently about, and she was telling me how she got an iPhone. I bought an iPhone, and I picked it up. It's an Android phone, and I go, no, you got an Android phone. She goes, no, it's an iPhone. And then I said, no, this is Android. It's powered by Google. She goes, oh, same difference. So I think it's Kleenex or Xerox.
It's almost like a generic term, like every tablet, because what people generally know a tablet by is an iPad. That's what's popular.
Yeah. Samsung Galaxy Mega is official, and it's coming in a 6.3-inch screen and a 5.9-inch screen. If the Galaxy Note 2 was too small for you, this is the phone for you. 6.3-inch screen and a 5.8-inch screen. Are we getting crazy with this?
Yes.
I think now this is getting obscene. This is just getting way obscene. The line between a phone and a tablet is getting blurred even more. And I've said it. You know what? I wouldn't necessarily be against my Nexus 7 having cell phone capabilities. You know, why does it matter? What? No. Even have, run it as a cell phone. Think about it. I mean, most people have a Bluetooth device or something, so why does it matter how big the phone is if you have like a little Bluetooth device on you? You're not carrying it everywhere with you. Maybe if you have like a bag, you put it in the bag, and that's what you walk around with, and you take your phone calls.
Yeah. And I like this.
But yeah, just like that. Just like that. Look at that. That doesn't
look at how cool I am.
Suck ass. Your head is so small.
This big phone.
You're like in the land of giants. But
Finally,
where
a
do you,
screen I can see.
is it necessary to have a 6.
You can be on the phone and see who's calling.
I mean, do you need a
just use your
6.83
peripheral
inch
vision.
screen though? I mean, would you want a 6.3 inch screen? I personally wouldn't. I think that's way too big for a phone.
Yeah, I mean, we had this discussion a couple of weeks ago, I think, about what's the ideal phone size. And I think we kind of agreed it was around the 4.3-inch range.
4.7.
6.3. Like, you were even saying that the Note 2 is kind of big. A lot of people say that the Note 2 is big. And here we have the Samsung Galaxy Mega. And this is something that I find really confusing, is how they call everything a Samsung Galaxy something. And this is just kind of confusing how they have so many different names. And I understand that they try to do this branding stuff, but at the same time, and quite frankly, I don't know if you've seen the pictures of this Samsung Galaxy Mega device.
I saw some pictures, yeah.
It looks like every other Samsung Galaxy device. Every single thing. I cannot tell you the difference other than the size. That's the only thing that I see different about this.
Well, that's
I don't
the
see a difference between the S4, the Galaxy Nexus S4, S3, S2, S1. And the Samsung Galaxy Mega, they all look exactly the same. And I mean exactly.
I mean, this is a Samsung approach, right? Let's saturate the market. Let's become the number one manufacturer. Let's offer something for everybody, something that Apple doesn't do. It's a PC mentality, and they're doing quite well with it, in my opinion. They're following the exact PC mentality.
It's absurd, and no, this whole Android thing, and it's almost lending itself to fragmentation. And I can understand that. It's just I don't see the need for people needing a 6.3-inch phone.
Yeah, but I set the
By the
same
way,
for a
this
5.
is something that's only being offered in Europe. They're not offering that here in the United States, but they're offering this a 6.3-inch version, and I believe a 5.8 version, both in Europe. So not only did we get two mega-sized, not only one, but we got two mega-sized phones.
But this is what they've been doing, and when I first saw the Galaxy Note 2, I said, "Wow, this is really big." And I had the phone and I played with it. It's a really good phone. The display is beautiful, but again, as an everyday phone for me, it is way too big.
It better
don't
have
feel
a damn good
comfortable.
camera in it for that size.
And it didn't. And it didn't.
It better have the best camera.
No, it was okay.
If it's that big, it's got to have a good camera, right?
It was okay, the camera, not as good as the iPhone. And definitely not as good as the BlackBerry. I'll tell you that. Which is weird to say, that a BlackBerry is one of the best cameras that I've ever used.
I think it's a must.
Yeah.
If you have a device that's 5 inches or bigger, it better have the best camera in it that you can put in there. Because it's not like you don't have the space. I mean, you got an iPhone 5 this big, and it has a fantastic camera in it. But you have a device that's twice as big as this, and it has a crappy camera? Are you kidding me?
And John, go into the BlackBerry story.
This is kind of interesting, and I don't know how much weight this holds, but there was a poll done by Raymond James Research that revealed that 31% of people said that the Android phone was the only one that they wanted, while just only 19% said that they wanted the iPhone. And more than 71%, get this, 71% of people surveyed said that the BlackBerry is what they wanted the least out of all those.
Yeah.
So they would take an Android, an iPhone, way before they would ever take a BlackBerry device, by an overwhelming majority.
As someone that has the BlackBerry Z10, and I'm going to be going into detail about my experience with it over the last 2 weeks, I think that's a very skewed perception, because we have been conditioned to think how awful BlackBerry is and how behind the times they are.
Well, it was.
Well, they were, and when people
We weren't conditioned, it was. That was the truth.
And let me tell you, with this survey that was taken, do they say how many of those people actually know about the Z10? How many of those people have used the Z10?
I think so, yeah. I don't know about used it, but they were made aware of it. And that's one of the things that you kind of have to look into is details, the fine details of these polls. Because the details in the polls are really what tell you how they asked it and whether or not this is actually a true representation of what people are saying. They surveyed, I think, about 250 people. And I kind of want to believe this, but I kind of don't in a way, because in a way it sounds like they did a pretty good job of taking this survey, but at the same time, it's almost hard to believe that 71% of people said that they didn't really care for a BlackBerry.
Yeah.
Even though they have this brand new phone out, they are still turned off to it. And in a way, that says a lot about BlackBerry itself.
I think that says a lot
that they caused themselves
Yeah.
over the past year by delaying this by more than a year. I mean, you think about this. They actually delayed the BlackBerry Z10 by an entire 12 months. And that dang near killed them doing that.
Yeah, but
they might have gotten it pretty much right, but at the expense of still almost killing themselves.
Yeah, and it's market perception, right? It is what they think of that BlackBerry is, and I don't think they are aware of what BlackBerry is now. I believe even though they're aware of this new phone, they are not aware of what it can do and how the experience is overall on this thing. And that is the problem here. I don't think this represents how BlackBerry users feel. There was also another story that came out that people are returning the BlackBerries, the Z10.
And they want to have some sort of probe into that.
Yeah,
which I think it's absolutely weird that they would be so hurt by this that they need to have some sort of probe into why people are saying that they're returning it. And this is just that was just basically an analyst saying, "Oh, I've seen some numbers that suggest that people are returning the BlackBerry Z10 in large numbers," and that's what I think.
No, you know what?
Really, you're going to launch an entire probe on that?
I think the problem with BlackBerry is that people got this device, and I didn't really read any awful reviews about it. People
mixed.
It was mixed, but you know what it was? Mixed. It was, it's good. That was everybody's reaction from what I read. It was, it's pretty good. It's all right. It's good.
The problem with that is that they delayed it by 12 months to make it the best they can make it, but it still came out good. So it's like, oh, well, if you make us wait for a whole year to make it sure that everything is just right, well, then it better be pretty dang good, right? Yeah. And it's just good. So then it's almost like a disappointment because in a way, they kind of set high expectations for themselves, saying that, oh, well, we're going to wait until we're good and ready with this.
You know what? I think it's a perfect time to do picks of the week. With that said, and I want you to go first so I can prepare for mine. What is your pick of the week?
My pick of the week is a website called TV Rage. Some of you might have heard this website before. It's a kind of TV fan site where they kind of have it's similar to the IMDb, that Internet Movie Database, only it's more focused on TV shows and whatnot. It's really cool because it has so much information about every show that's on TV. And because I'm such a TV fanatic and I watch so many shows, this is a really great website for me because not only can you track shows, you can see like a schedule of what's coming up, which is really good because it's so up to date. Like I have never seen them not up to date with what's going on. Rarely are they wrong with their schedule. But if you actually create an account on their website, you can bookmark and favorite your favorite shows. So if you have a certain amount of shows that you like to keep track of, you want your own calendar of, your own schedule per se, of TV shows. You can actually create your own schedule of TV shows, which is really cool. So let's say you like NCIS and a TV show called Selling LA or something called Transformers, Prime Beast Hunters. If you like that stuff, you can add that up to your own calendar, have your own schedule of TV shows so you know exactly when each episode is on. Because sometimes it's really hard to keep track of TV shows and when they actually air because the way they do things now is it's so hard to keep track of, when the season starts or when they're going to only show certain episodes. Like they might only show 3 episodes and take 3 weeks off and then show another 4 episodes and then take another 2-week break and show 1 episode and do a season finale or something like that. So this is a great way to keep track of that. The best part of what I really like about TV Rage is that you can actually get an iCal feed of your favorite TV shows. So I have like probably 100 TV shows in my favorites list. And I can go over to Google Calendar and input that ICS feed and actually get my schedule of TV shows right on my Google Calendar. So I can keep track of it here on my iPhone or anywhere that I can access my Google Calendar and see exactly what TV episodes are coming up for what day so that I know that I'm not going to miss any important episode of my favorite TV shows.
Very, very cool. Very nice.
And it's TVRage.com, guys.
Very cool. So for my pick is the BlackBerry Z10, and this is my overall review of the phone that I'm gonna do right now live on the air. I had the phone for 2 weeks, courtesy of AT&T. They were very gracious to send the phone over and for me to use it. And AT&T has been sending me phones for the last 2 years now, or last year and a half. And out of all the phones that I have tested, I have to tell you, this is my favorite phone. Quite possibly, currently, my favorite phone on the market.
Really?
Yeah, I absolutely, from the moment I picked it up, and this is my
and
first
you tried
BlackBerry.
a lot of the latest phones from Android and Windows Phone.
Absolutely, and this is my first BlackBerry experience. I've held a BlackBerry in my hand. I've put my phone number in someone's BlackBerry, but I've never had a BlackBerry for an extended period of time. And this was phenomenal. The experience with this was phenomenal. I'm going to give you all the good stuff first, and I'll tell you some of the issues that I had. The first thing that I noticed here, and let me go here to this. The first thing that I noticed, there's no back button on this phone, John. There's no back button. So to go back, you got to swipe up and then swipe that way. So that's your back button when you're inside of an application. They have something called the BlackBerry Hub, which gives you all your updates, all your messages. So it kind of puts everything in one centralized location. Very, very nice UI, nice clean UI. To me, almost a modern feeling iOS experience with the BlackBerry 10 UI. Really, really easy to use. One of the main things that I absolutely love on this phone is the camera. They have a phenomenal camera on this thing. I'm going to take a picture.
Yeah.
I'm going to do like a little sample
I've seen
picture.
some of the sample photos that you've had, and it's just absolutely incredible, especially the macro mode that they have on the BlackBerry. I think that's probably one of the best macro modes that I've seen on any mobile phone. Even the iPhone, and the iPhone has a great camera, but the macro shots that you can take with a BlackBerry, oh my goodness, they are like the best macro shots I've ever seen.
Yeah, I actually took a bunch of photos, and I'm going to be putting it up in my review on the website when I post it. But I was so impressed by the camera. I would say it's very close to iOS.
And you're somebody that's very critical of cameras in cell phones. That you've not been impressed with hardly any camera in a cell phone.
No, I think this is a great sign for things to come because the camera is so good on this thing. The macro mode is much better than the iPhone. It does a very good job with aperture, where it's able to blur out the back and really focus in on the image. And really, some of these photos that I've taken look as good as any photo I've taken on a DSLR. Depending on the lighting and depending on the situation. I took a picture of a martini glass last night, and the photo was, just stunning with the lighting behind it. Very impressive. Again, you have BlackBerry Messenger on this thing. Typical. The text messaging, standard. The browser is okay. Oh, that is my email from, there we go. You could edit that out. Just the standards are here. Now, some of the things that are missing is a refined app store. The app store is nothing to really write home about. There's not much in the app store.
Then again, it is a device that's only been out for a couple months now.
A couple months, but I am still a little disappointed with the app store on this thing. A lot of standards that have been on every platform are missing, like a speed test application. Now, you're going to say, okay, well, Andrew, why does it matter if a speed test application is on here? I'm using it as a representation of just standard apps that have been on nearly every platform, even on the old BlackBerry platform and on Windows Mobile, that's missing from this. So I'm hoping, over the next 6 months to a year, they really add more applications to this thing. I know that they do emulation of Android apps. I don't want to do that because that's kind of cheating. I want to have a BlackBerry experience, and I don't want to kind of bring something in that's not in here. But there are some of the top apps, like MLB at Bat 13 is on there, Wall Street Journal, New York Times, Angry Birds, the weather, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. They're all there, so it's gotten better. Now, I'm going to go through a list. I was given a list by Mike Wright, which also has a BlackBerry, and he's been using it for about the same amount of time as me, but he's doing a lot of corporate stuff on this thing. And he absolutely loves the phone. But he did encounter some problems with the browser, which I also encountered. It was a little glitchy. BlackBerry Link, he's not happy about. It needs more applications for banking, like I've said, because for credit cards and brokers, a lot of people want to do online transactions, and it's kind of limited. He has had a problem with the Verizon version. I'm not too sure. I haven't had any of this on the AT&T, so I can't speak. But he's had a problem with the SIM card on his AT&T on his Verizon version, where it loses connection. So where there's a red exclamation point where the bars are, and he has to actually reset the entire thing and go back. I didn't have that problem with my phone at all. It was pretty good when it came to that. Overall, really good experience. I believe I'm going to go and buy this thing as soon as I send this one back to AT&T, because I'm coming from Android, where things are not as refined. I think they did a very good job with the operating system. Now, what does it mean for the marketplace for BlackBerry, and how is it going to affect everything else on the market? They might be a little too late in that sense, but I think for enterprise, they will be able to grab or pull some people back to BlackBerry. I'm very impressed by the phone. Very, very impressed. And battery life, I read it was awful. I did not experience that. I thought the battery life was pretty good.
And you've been using this pretty much as your primary device for the past week and a half.
Yeah, and I never had that happen with any phone that I've gotten for review. I carried it with me everywhere, but I would still default back to my Android phone, to my Nexus. I would always default back to this to do everyday things. I didn't get that feeling with this. I felt very comfortable using it as my everyday phone, and I'm actually pleasantly surprised at how much I like the phone.
Wow.
And listen, I have no reason to like BlackBerry. I've never used one. I don't have any kind of brand loyalty to it. I just really like the experience with this thing, and I'm hoping they do really well and they just continue to improve, because I think they could potentially become a very serious competitor to iOS and Android if they actually put out more devices like this. I don't know. Do you have any questions? And you are a BlackBerry guy for many years.
I was, and it just got old and stale. I mean, I think you have valid concerns about the apps, though, and I think in a way that could come with time. But at the same time, it's sort of hard to go from an iPhone or an Android that has hundreds of thousands of applications to a device that doesn't have hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
So I think people need to kind of be prepared for that, and in a way, be okay with that.
I'm curious about their plan for the next year, because this is their device, and if this device came out 2 years ago, it would be a totally different market. Totally different market. If it came out last year, quite possibly could have affected the market. I think at this point, because it is such an Android and such an iOS market, it's going to be a very, very difficult push for number 2. Maybe they could become number 3 by, kind of competing aggressively with Windows Phone.
Do you think that could change once they have the BlackBerry Q10, which is the one with the actual keyboard, the physical QWERTY keyboard on it?
Oh, you brought up something interesting. The keyboard on this thing.
Yeah, it's got that flick thing on it to predict words and stuff.
It does. It does a word prediction, and it does a very good job at the word prediction. It took me a little bit of time to get used to the keyboard because I was coming from SwiftKey on the Android side, but after about a week of using it, it was flawless and very, very fast to type. I didn't experience any problems with the soft keyboard, which I'm going to pull up now. Let's go to a text message. I'm going to message John right now. Is there anything here that I should not... Okay. That I should not display on this. So here's my conversation with you, and well, your last name is now out. Doesn't matter at this point. So here's the keyboard. Really nice, really slick, and very good to use. I mean, it's a standard keyboard, nothing crazy about it. But
now, can you type pretty quickly on that?
I can.
How fast can you type on that compared to an iPhone?
Okay, so I'm going to hold it up, and I'm going to type So I butchered this, okay? When I was typing, I wrote
You
"Hello, how
butcher
are you?"
everything you
And it
type,
was just
though.
it was just a jumbled up mess, and it was able to predict it so accurately that it knew I was saying "Hello, how are you?"
I think that is one of the things that we need to have in phones now, is because in a way, I think prediction is key when you're typing, because it's not necessarily always easy to type accurately on a touch screen device like that.
Yeah,
You know what I'm saying?
it's able to predict really accurately. I would like to know if it actually learns your typing style. I believe it does. And that's something that SwiftKey does really well on Android, where it's able to predict what you're going to write, and it learns from your emails, from your text messages, from your Facebook and your Twitter. It's able to learn your writing style, so it kind of predicts what word you're going for. But overall, very happy with this phone. Probably the only phone that I've really been able to gush over like this. Very refreshing to see, and really excited to see what they do with this. With the next generation of BlackBerry devices. Yeah, the Q10 is going to be coming out, and that's going to have an actual keyboard on it. And I wonder how that's going to be perceived, because there are still people out there that hate the soft touch keyboards. A lot of people, and I'm curious how they are going to be able to use that, because remember, we're a couple of years disconnected from those days where people were getting those physical keyboards, the trios and the cues, and the curves. I mean, we're totally disconnected from that. So, very, very interested to see it. But my opinion, I would recommend it. I would recommend it. The only thing that would hold me, that would kind of prevent me from recommending it to everybody, is the lack of apps. If you're an app person and you want thousands of apps and you want every new app, this is not for you. But if you don't care about the apps, and you're using it as your daily, everyday communication device, this is a really good phone, and I would definitely recommend it. And that is my review of the BlackBerry Z10. Again, I want to thank AT&T for sending this over. I'm going to be sending this back to them on Monday, and most probably purchasing one of these.
Cool.
And possibly on AT&T, because I'm not... The service, for whatever reason, I'm getting recently is much better on AT&T than on Verizon in my house. You're surprised, huh, John?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah, I know, and I'm actually surprised, and everybody that I speak to is really surprised at how much I like this. But great job by BlackBerry on this phone, because it definitely, for me, it's worth looking into. And that wraps it up for today, guys. That was Tech News Weekly. Hey, John, thanks a lot for hanging out. Any promotion? I know people could follow you at Suncast on Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's SUNKAST, not with a C.
And
With a K.
Suncast.com is your website.
Yep. Not that I post a whole lot on there, just basically just whatever episodes I'm on.
Anything else?
That's pretty much it.
Very, very cool. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Andrew Zarian. I'm pretty active on there. You'll see a lot of my photos, a lot of my drunken nights. I start tweeting. So it's fascinating for people. It's like watching animals in the jungle. That's actually a great explanation of my Twitter, watching animals in the jungle. And of course, if you miss any portion of the show, you can go to our website, gfqnetwork.com, and catch it archived there. And again, we'll see you all next week on Tech News Weekly. Good night, everybody.